All right, so good afternoon and welcome to the first ARC Network virtual office hours. Today's session will focus on the upcoming Equity and STEM community convening. Before we begin, a few notes about participation. Your audio has been muted when you join the call. Questions can be submitted via the chat box on your screen to the right. We should have ample time for questions to be answered after the presentation has ended. The ARC Network is managed by our executive team, Heather Metcalf, PI, myself, Rochelle Williams, who's Program Director and Co-PI, Gail Gasparich, Co-PI and Chair of the External Advisory Committee, and Joan Herbers, Co-PI and Chair of the ARC Research Board. Together, we are working to ensure we position the ARC Network as the driver of STEM equity through an intersectional, intentional, and inclusive lens.
Positioning the ARC network as the driver of STEM equity, from our perspective, requires an intentional approach to creating an inclusive community that's dedicated to practicing, advocating for, and researching equity and inclusion issues in academic STEM. Bridging the gap between research and practice is not a one-off event. We must focus our efforts on sustaining an inclusive community by enabling peer-to-peer exchange of adaptable knowledge, skills, and practices to advance learning, effective systemic change in academic STEM environments. We're doing this through resource library curation, online community and virtual engagement, and our community convening, which is the focus of this meeting today.
The Library of Curated Resources will aid the community in their STEM equity efforts by housing reports, white papers, briefings, toolkits, videos, and other resources produced by researchers and practitioners that inform systemic change. We will also position ourselves as the go-to hub for community collaboration, and the ARC Network platform will offer events by the community, create resource awareness, offer training on adapting resources, and more. So in partnership with Elsevier, a longtime collaborator of AWIS, our virtual community space and research library is hosted on their Mendeley platform. In addition, we have an open access multimedia digital journal hosted on SSRN to feature the work of the community, including preprints, reports, toolkits, trainings, and more. Each of these virtual spaces has been offered by Elsevier in kind, which puts us in a position to sustain the ARC Network community well beyond the funding period. If you haven't already registered to join the ARC Network community, you can join at www.equityandstem.org for free. Members of the ARC Network also receive a discount on the community convening registration. The ARC Network's 2019 Equity and STEM Community Convening serves as a meeting space for researchers, practitioners, and change agents dedicated to creating equitable STEM workplaces. Attendees will have an opportunity to share new research findings and exchange resources, brainstorm strategies, collaborate in novel ways, and demonstrate effective programs and interventions for greater collective impact. The Equity and STEM Community Convening builds on the momentum of the National Science Foundation's Advanced PI Workshops, which has gathered advanced grantees from around the country to share their work on gender equity issues in academic STEM for more than a decade. We look forward to seeing you all in Cleveland, Ohio at the Westin Cleveland downtown, October 6th through 8th. Now on to the new components of this year's meeting. The main goal of the visual abstract is to convey the essential elements of your presentation clearly and succinctly so that a reader can determine interest at a glance. Essentially, a visual abstract is a visual summary of the information typically found within the traditional abstracts. They provide an effective way to display ideas and should be designed to persuade people to either attend your presentation or learn more about your efforts. In the medical field, we see visual abstracts used, and they're typically one slide, and they closely resemble what we would typically present on in a poster. However, because this is a new way for us all to think about how to present our work, we wanted to give people more flexibility in how they present the key elements of your research or the resources you're using. This is primarily why we didn't want to provide a very prescriptive example, but we have provided a rubric that's located in the call for presentations for your guidance. Please note that we do plan to distribute the visual abstracts that are accepted within the ARC Network community platform and with external audiences using social media. Visual abstracts can be completed in any presentation software, including PowerPoint, Keynote, or Prezi, but must be submitted in the original presentation file format. To ensure your visual abstract is accessible to a broad audience, slide narrations with supporting transcripts are strongly encouraged. Also new this year is us thinking about how to present this meeting using different types of sessions and priority areas. So 2019 Equity and STEM Community Convening will highlight high quality research and works in progress that have potential to advance and transform STEM workplaces. In addition to the keynote sessions and poster showcase, we are introducing new ways to think about the interactive concurrent sessions. First, we will have early stage innovation sessions, which will support new and early stage programs, initiatives, research, and interventions designed to examine and promote equitable work environments from an intersectional perspective. Less formal in nature, the early stage innovation presentations are meant to help develop, inform, and provide feedback to works in progress. Next, experience reports. These sessions are for well-developed and/or later stage programs, initiatives, and research interventions designed to examine and promote equitable work environments from an intersectional perspective also. We will also introduce lightning talks to this year's lineup. This format will challenge scholars to really focus on the highlights of their work and explain its importance in the span of 5 minutes. The lightning talks will take place during our evening networking reception, thus providing an opportunity for presenters to share and receive feedback on projects at any stage of development, hear about other types of projects and methods, and network with other researchers and practitioners dedicated to advancing equity in STEM. Finally, the community has the opportunity to build their own sessions through our symposia and workshop options. A symposium is a multi-presenter session including a well-integrated set of research and practice content and is 2 hours in length. Participants in a symposium should include a chairperson and 3 to 5 presenters. The workshop should be structured to facilitate a deeper look into critical topics and challenges in implementing and sustaining social equity efforts in STEM. These 3-hour sessions should be interactive and may include lectures, panels, research findings, case studies, and any valuable expertise by respected leaders in the fields. Please note that when submitting a symposia, you will be asked to describe how the proposed panel speakers lineup incorporates diversity of experiences, including demographic factors, career stages, institutional settings, and more. In the call for presentations, we've also outlined the visual abstract guidelines based on session type. The biggest takeaway regarding the visual abstract is to remember we do not want your final presentation Even for those submitting to the poster showcase, we do not want to see your final slide design. Remember, the goal of a visual abstract is to get us excited about attending or learning more about the work at your institution. Now, on to the priority areas. The priority areas will help the planning committee select and include a diverse set of presentations. If your presentation does not necessarily fit in the priority areas that we've listed, you will have the opportunity to suggest one during the submission process. And you can definitely learn more about all of the priority areas in the call for presentations. One we do want to highlight is the advance to market, which will focus on research, programs, and practices that are focused on academic STEM entrepreneurship and commercialization, including social equity issues and taking your own diversity and inclusion research and resources to market. We understand this is something new, and it's something we're really excited about regarding the new community convening. You can submit your proposal on the Equity in STEM website by selecting Convening on the top menu, then selecting Call for Presentation. You will then see a Submit Your Proposal button as shown on this slide. So in addition to uploading the visual abstract and identifying the session type, you will be asked a few more items, including the need to upload a 300-word maximum session description. So this session description is what will be used when we publish your session online and in all print materials. Go ahead, Heather.
We also incorporated a number of different keywords and phrases just to help categorize some of the different submission types and help guide attendees in figuring out which sessions they want to attend. So when you're submitting your proposal, you'll use or select a number of different keywords and phrases. We're also uploading the full set of taxonomy for the keywords and phrases to the website. That'll be available after the webinar. Just to give you all a couple of ideas of the kinds of projects that fit within each of these categories that we have. Under barriers, these include projects that focus on a number of different issues, either at the macro or micro level. So including issues surrounding discrimination, bias, and microaggressions, as well as how those influence things like hiring, recruitment, pay and salary, resource allocation, grant funding, etc. We also have demographic patterns. So this is a way for you to note that you're doing research or a project that is emphasizing a number of different demographic factors that come into play from an intersectionality perspective. Also looking at disciplinary differences and different contexts that influence the work that we're doing around STEM equity and inclusion. Sessions around measurement methodologies and metrics for supporting research and evaluation of projects. I know a lot of times we talk about these in the meetings, and this creates a specific space for people who think about these things to submit around this keyword. And there are several more that are listed here that you'll be able to see, like I said, in more detail on the website after the webinar. All right, so a few things to remind you all before we move on to questions is just some important dates that we need to pay attention to. So first, the submissions close for the call for proposals on July 1st at 11:59 Pacific time. Folks who submit to the call will receive acceptance notifications by July 31st. All presentation materials will be due to us if you're accepted by September 2nd. And
We also have a note here on eligibility requirements that all authors must register for the community convening in order to present. And as Rochelle mentioned earlier, anyone who's already registered for the ARC network as a member will receive a discount on their community convening registration as well. So with that said, we're ready to turn it over to Andrea to share any questions that we've received and also to take new questions from folks who haven't submitted them to her already while we've been discussing. Andrea, did you receive any questions?
It looks like someone's typing, so let's give them just a minute.
Okay.
And just as a reminder, this is being recorded today, so if you have any questions or things that you think you missed, we'll be able to send you a copy of the recording. Margaret, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you so that way you can ask your question to Rochelle and Heather. You are unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to start my video. I'm just getting set up here. Hello.
Hi.
So I'm Margaret Iacobucci. Actually, Peg Iacobucci is what I go by. And I'm the lead PI on an adaptation track advanced grant that just started in September. So we're not quite done with our first year. We are very excited to participate in the community convening. We're in Bowling Green, Ohio, which is south of Toledo. So Cleveland is super convenient for us. So we're happy about that. But we are wondering what the best approach would be for us since we're very new. And we've just done less than a year's worth of our proposed work so far. The early stage innovations option in particular, we think is kind of interesting. We've done an open fishbowl session here on campus that worked really well. But a really basic question, when we're putting together a potential proposal, should we be focusing on what we're doing here at our own university, or should we be thinking broader, maybe reaching out to other institutions who are also on the adaptation track to see if we can do a joint proposal? What would be more suitable?
Heather, do you want to take it?
Sure, yeah, that's a great question. As you mentioned, the early stage innovations track was created specifically for folks like yourself, where you're just kind of getting started. You may have a few lessons learned, but it takes a little while to get things ramped up once you finally receive an award to work on these issues. So that track would be a really great one for you to share some lessons that you've learned in the first year, and also to get feedback from the rest of the community on any challenges that you might be facing. So the whole point of that session type is, to be really conversational and to help inform the work that you're doing. I also really love the idea that you mentioned of potentially submitting with another adaptation grantee to talk about what the similarities and differences are and what you've been learning together. And that's kind of track would be more along the lines of maybe a symposium where you could still incorporate the early stage innovation idea there, but it's more for a group of presenters, even across institutions, to share some ideas and to have input, and it would give you more space. So it really, I think it depends not just on, you know, what you have to offer the community, but also what do you want to get out of the meeting. So that symposium space would give you a 2-hour space to talk about these issues, get input, and have a dialogue. Whereas the early stage innovation track and the presentation format for that is a little bit shorter. So just think about it from those perspectives, I would say. Rochelle, anything that you want to add that I didn't touch on?
No, and I mean, if you only wanted to highlight what you're doing and not necessarily get feedback, the only other option would be the poster showcase. But it sounds like early stage innovations or the symposia is the route you should go based on what you've said.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you.
I don't think we have any other questions, but let's give it a minute in case anybody, okay, Maeve, I'll go ahead and unmute you.
Yeah,
Go ahead, ma'am.
I typed one, but I guess it didn't get to you. So, yeah, so I have a question about our advanced group. We have a couple of different things that we were thinking that we might present, and we were kind of going back and forth about which one to present, and then we thought, well, can we do 2 presentations? And we were thinking that we might have something in the lightning talks and something, and we might do a poster as well. And is that okay for like different people from our team to do, to be lead authors on different things?
Yes, but just know all of them may not be accepted.
Of course, of course.
So I just think if you wouldn't mind just reaching out to us and just letting us know like what your plans are as far as presentation wise, so that we're just conscious of that when it comes to selecting how things will be planned out for the meeting. So how we'll lay out the session. So if we're seeing we have room for you to do both the poster and a lightning talk, then we want to be able to make that available to you. But if we can't, at least we know we can reach out to you and say, okay, you're going to have to pick one or the other. Which way are you leaning? So we do want this to be something where it's not just us dictating what goes in, but really thinking through what is going to be the best way for you to get your message across to this audience.
Okay, okay. All right, great.
I think one other question I did receive via email was how long are the sessions that aren't the symposia or workshops? And those are looking at 60 minutes to 90 minutes, and it's gonna be determined based on how many presentations we receive overall. But those other sessions will be anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. I think we're leaning more towards 60 minutes. Just so it's not a jam-packed day and we can build in more networking breaks and opportunities for informal discussions.
Any other questions? I can see you both on your screen, so just feel free to give me a wave and I'll unmute you again.
Well, I guess if there are no more questions, we just want to say thank you for joining us for our first office hours. Our plan is to start offering these at least once a month, and they'll be on various topics based on what we see the community needs us to go into detail about. With that, Heather, do you have any concluding words?
I would just say as you're working on your proposal, that the abstracts and the content that you're going to be submitting, feel free to reach out to us. The email address is right here on the slide that Rochelle has up. We're happy to take any questions that you have and help support you in the submission process. And we're looking forward to seeing you in Cleveland. It'll be great.
Awesome. Well, everyone have a great weekend. Thank you for joining us.